Stoke-on-Trent City Council launched its Mandate for Change last year, a programme of regeneration to boost the local economy at a time of national doom and gloom. Work is underway at the new bus station, and just look at how Albion Square will be looking in a few years' time. But what is the cost? Last night, councillors approved their annual budget, raising council tax and cutting services. It's provided pages worth of newspaper coverage and sparked campaign groups. Most of the controversy surrounds the choice to close 2 care homes, cut jobs at the council and stop providing free bus travel in the morning for elderly and disabled people in the city. In the budget document, Councillor Mohammed Pervez, the leader of the council, said that their chief aim has been and always will continue to be to protect the most vulnerable members of the community. That's a feeling that's not shared by campaigners here.
So it's not a case of save this library or save this room, it's a case of we need expanding public sector services in the city, not a retraction, and definitely not something that's passed down by a Tory government that's ideologically committed to destroying public services.
After the council meeting, I caught up with a few of the councillors and spoke to them about the meeting. I started by asking about the closure of care homes.
Elderly people that are in care will be supported, and where service provision will be provided in the independent sector in the future, we understand that basically most of that provision is within the independent sector at the moment, so you need to recognise that. People will be given support, complaints regarding any of these facilities. We take it more seriously and we follow up. Indeed, we work with the Care Quality Commission to make sure that we follow through on any complaint.
So the Independents made a suggestion that the full budget wasn't released and the only information provided was the stuff that's been cut, so they couldn't put in any alternative plans.
Yeah.
What's your response?
The Independents have access to all the financial information they need. We produce a whole book of information at the end of the financial year, which came out in the summer, so we had all of that. The actual financial book is it's hugely thick. It's probably about, I can't do it in centimetres, but it's probably about 20 centimetres thick, every single line of the budget, which we do have. It's actually not very helpful to people. But what the Independents should have done is ask for what they needed. And our finance staff would have provided them with whatever they wanted. It's not up to us to prevent the opposition of coming up with alternatives. If they come up with something which is good and helpful, that's absolutely fine. But, it was just an excuse. They haven't done anything, to be honest. They haven't done anything at all.
How much can the council really blame the government for the cuts that it is deciding to make?
Well, we've had to make and decide where the cuts actually fall, but we have to work within the budget set by government. And this government over the last 2 years has given us a very, very, very deeply reduced budget. The vast majority of our expenditure does happen to fall in the areas of social services and children and older people. So inevitably there's going to be cuts in those areas just because that's where most of the spend is. We do try to keep it away from the most vulnerable, but at times that's where it has to fall.
Is it not a bit unfair that Stoke is the only local authority in the area that's saying actually no, you can pay more this year?
No, not really, because when you look at the council tax that we all pay, the council here, the Stoke-on-Trent Council, has got one of the lowest council taxes anyway, and that's including with the government money as well. They're two together, it really adds up low per person. And you look at the rest of the county and the area, and even the country, most areas get a lot more income coming in than we have.
Does it look like the council are just ducking the issue of a referendum because it will cost too much, or do you think they're too shy about the possibility of being put in line by the voters?
Well, I think before Christmas, the council's ruling Labour group was suggesting it would be a 3.5% increase, and then when Eric Pickles announced that 3.5 would be the level that they would have to hold a referendum, it got reduced down to 3.49, so I think really it would be difficult not to think that that was happening. And although a referendum would be costly, I think there's no denying that really, particularly because we suffer from low turnout in Stoke. It just looks a bit too suspicious, doesn't it really, to think otherwise. You can't help but think that they've put it at 3.49% to duck out of getting a referendum because they're a bit embarrassed about having to take money from the Conservatives in government to have a 0% increase. I think really at the moment with the current economic conditions, residents around the city would really appreciate no council tax rise really. And in my heart I can't vote for an increase when we are cutting services like that, because I really don't believe that there isn't other things that we could cut instead.